Hello, everyone. Today we are here with Jenny Guillermo from AnyMac Mortgage and Liz Barletta from Liz Barletta team at Ligris. And we are here to discuss common pitfalls in the process for purchasing a new home. We're here to ask a few questions just to kind of debunk, I guess, some, things that people should know in the process for buying a home. So when you are purchasing a home, there are things that can hinder you from getting to the closing table. And we want you to know what some of those common pitfalls might be so that you can avert having to go through that crisis where you think you're going to close on a home on said day and then come to find out you did something that you probably shouldn't have done. So one of the biggest common pitfalls is having a pre-approval and a pre-qualification. There is a difference, and with a pre-approval and a pre-qualification, that could make or break the deal depending on where you stand. Jenny, do you mind shedding a little more light on what that means?
Of course. So when you get pre-approved versus a pre-qualification, with the pre-approval process, we go into deeper details on how we would be able to calculate income. We do, in most cases, we even do a verification of employment. We actually verify that the information is correct. For like that, once closer to the finish line, we don't have to end up finding out that we have now a surprise. Basically, people that go through a pre-qualification is basically whatever he or she said and whatever is placed down in an application. So let's just say if you thought you were going to be finishing the year with 70,000 and that's what you told your loan officer. Um, and then at the end, when verifying your income, you're less than the 70,000. If let's just say the numbers were tight, that can actually be a situation where the debt to income might change, and that could be risky. Definitely.
Yeah,
So
so
with the pre-approval, I'm
mhm.
sorry. hmm
No, go ahead.
So with the pre-approval, I would say you're more in like the safe zone when you're actually putting in an offer. You should be more confident. If you're putting in a pre-qualification and it's just information written down from the buyer's knowledge on and not it's not verified, that's the complete difference, pretty much.
Okay. So would you say that pre-qualification is more the soft credit pull that you would do for a buyer to kind of give them an idea of where they might be in their purchasing power for a home? And the pre-approval is like, okay, this is where you are. You can absolutely submit an offer, at any amount less, or at this price point. Do you think that that's safe to say?
I would say, well, we do soft pull credit check. So the soft pull credit check is probably not the best thing to maybe compare it to, but maybe as in get you an idea. If you're pre-qualified, it's going to give you an idea of rough estimate, pretty
Hmm.
much. Rounding it off, you're rounding numbers. You're really not being exact with the actual numbers. So maybe more of an estimate, even though when you get pre-approved, the numbers are always estimate, but they are definitely closer to what it should be at the end of the day.
Which is
Okay,
so
so in
important.
a pre-approval, you have estimated numbers. So just this is my information. Hey, Jenny, I make X amount of money per year. This is where I have in my savings. And a pre-approval,
Mhm.
is it pre-approval? Is the
So with the
difference?
pre-approval, we are actually going in deeper. We are actually going in with, I am certain this is what I qualify for because
Okay.
the loan officer takes this time to actually go in deeper and making sure that the income is certain, it's exactly what should be when the person gets pre-approved. With the
Your submitted
pre-qualification, we're
document.
just asking, let's fill out an application. You tell me what is your information, and we're not really verifying it. We just skim through the information of the application. We get the pre-qualification based on what the client says.
Okay.
It's so
Mhm.
like even just talking and hearing you say it, Jenny, it seems so like crazy to me that that buyers go out there shopping and for homes with just the pre-qual because it's like
Correct.
how
Yeah.
can you expect like to have a successful transaction when literally this is just like, oh yeah, I have excellent credit. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, like I make this
Mhm.
much money and it's like nothing's verified. Like it's just,
Yeah.
but
Correct.
I've seen it happen on the back end where, loan officers, not Jenny, would just give this type of document.
Mhm.
And the buyers, especially those who've never been through this before, think that this is like gold. And then
Right.
everybody's wasted their time at the end when literally just what Jenny's talking about in terms of getting the pre-qual, had that been done, it would have been able to like avoid all of the heartache for the buyer, because
Correct. Yeah.
that sucks as a buyer
Okay.
to get through that stage and then find out you don't qualify when it would have been easily discoverable.
Right.
Correct.
So for pre-approval, you submit your documents. You're going off of hard evidence. And for
Yeah.
pre-qualification, it's just a matter of, hey, we're trying to get our foot in the door. Maybe you're just in your first phases of home buying. Maybe you're shopping around and you kind of want to get an idea of what it is that you might be approved for. So that's great information, because I know that in an offer, there is a contingency based on financing. And so the pre-qualification and the pre-approval can break that contingency, because if you cannot get financing, which in a pre-qualification scenario can be the case, because if you are pre-qualified, nothing is hard evidence. You haven't submitted your documents. You don't have
Right.
the actual numbers. So with a pre-qualification, if you submit an offer and then you get pre-approved after you submit an offer and that offer has been accepted, and you can't get financing because you're not getting the amount that you thought you were going to get for that purchase based on your pre-qualification, you now cannot get financing and you cannot get to the closing table. Like, that deal is going to be dead, pretty much. Another hindrance for getting to the closing table could be your job history, your employment, switching jobs. Also, do you want to reveal to us, Jenny, how that might hinder someone getting to the closing table?
Okay. So when you are pre-approved and you go through the process, you initiate everything, you bring your loan officer, your documents, we're basically starting the process, but it doesn't end there. I want to make sure that everyone understands that if, let's just say, you got pre-approved, you're working variable hours or it's set hours, you can't make any changes and not let your loan officer know. Because then if the loan officer has no idea that they cut down your hours, now your pre-approval is no good. If you put it in an offer, and the offer gets accepted, when we do the verification of employment and we find out that your income might have changed, now you might not be qualifying for the same amount.
Mhm.
So it's always good to have these conversations when you are pre-approved and now you're either working less, or maybe you made it might be changing your jobs, or if your company got sold and now they're not offering you the same benefits such as overtimes or bonuses or maybe even commission, you have to let your loan officer know. It's important, because if not so, then your income might drop and then you're not qualifying for the same amount.
Yeah. I see
Yeah, and I have seen this happen too.
I've seen it happen, and it
Yeah.
sucks. And it's like sometimes it's that call you never want to get, like, oh my gosh, Liz, our buyer just switched jobs, or Liz,
Yeah.
the buyer
Correct.
just bought a car. Like, what are so
Yeah.
like it's big decisions like that. It's so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have seen in a scenario where we were ready to get to the closing table, and during that process of, because everything has to match, right? You get a pre-approval, you start shopping for a home, and then you get an offer accepted. Now the bank is going to want to know that everything that you said to them a month, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, still matches today, right?
Yeah.
So whatever you told them at the beginning of your process and when you first started the process to start shopping for a home, it should match whatever the process, wherever you are in the process once you get an offer accepted, and you're getting to the closing table, because the bank is going to want to see that everything still remains the same. Your income is still the same, your savings is still the same, you still have, the money to get to the closing table, you're still working at the place where you told us you were working, because you're going to be able to afford that mortgage payment because you have that credibility from having that job history. So what am I seeing here, that with job history, you shouldn't really request like time off, Because what if, a month before closing, I'm going to take a vacation and, I'm requesting some time off or I'm having a baby and then I have that time off? Is that going to affect me if I, am a home buyer and I'm looking to close in a month from today and I request that extra time off?
If you're in the process of buying a home, anything and everything should be disclosed up front before it happens, because that definitely could be changing. Now, you're not just going out there maybe falling in love with a home and then all of a sudden it gets to the point where your offer's accepted. You're not going to want to hear, "Oh, I'm sorry, you don't qualify for this." Now we have to brainstorm and see if there's any other possible way that you would be able to offer it.
Yeah.
And in most cases, if you don't have a plan B and it doesn't work out, it's just heartbreaking to see this person go through everything and then get told by the bank, because the pre-approval um, status is just say you're not approved. The bank is not ready to just hand you
Right. You're
a
not
loan.
done with the
Pretty much,
transaction.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's pretty much your pre for the pre-approval. It's before you get approved.
Right.
So if anything changes, you are taking time off without pay, because in most cases, if you're getting PTO, that kind of helps out to know that even if you do take time off, that income is going to be there. But if, let's just say, you no longer have PTO, now you're taking time off, that might trigger your income calculation to change.
And also
So
just to kind of piggyback on this, because one of the things you mentioned was um, now once your offer is accepted, still being approved. But it's not just even when from that moment in time, if things change, you need to keep it consistent the entire time until you've closed. Like not
yes,
even like the day before closing, don't be calling anybody saying you changed your job. Like, or even after you've gotten your commitment letter, because things still have to happen. The bank will still have to do a verification of employment 24 hours, right, before closing.
yes.
That happens even if you've gotten your approval letter. So you have to be cognizant of that like the entire time. And then post closing, go buy your car or whatever, but like change your job,
Or change
go
that
on
job you
vacation,
didn't like, but it's correct.
but not
Yeah.
before.
So
Right.
what if I'm the kind of person that say, I tried this process, I got a pre-approval, I wasn't making enough money. So I took on a second job and now I have, money enough that I think I can get a higher pre-approval for me to be able to afford a home. That is actually in the market because let's just face it, a lot of the time we can get a pre-approval for $200,000, but that doesn't mean that we're going to go find a home with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms for $200,000 in the neighborhood that I'm looking
Right.
for,
I
or even
know.
300. That could be the difference between, affordability and maybe just finding something that's realistic, right? So I have this new job and I have enough money. I come to you again for a pre-approval. What can you tell me about the fact that I have this new job and the old job now that I've been working?
So if you're taking on a second job, that's a little different to where if you switched your jobs. Let's say if you switched your jobs, you were getting paid a certain amount. Now you know that because you're not getting enough pay from that job, you changed your job in the same line, you find a great opportunity. Now you go from variable hours to say that that was what was killing you because maybe that job that you're currently working in doesn't offer you the 40 hours. Now you find this job that actually has offered you the 40 hours set, 40 hours plus extra money. You there's no reason why you shouldn't be changing. That's going to benefit you along in the long run, but not immediately. We would have to wait to see the consistency. Maybe if it's like one switch to the that happens immediately. If it happens immediately, there's no gaps. You should be able to work the first week, maybe get a check the second week. We would still need that consistency of maybe a month to see that you are getting paid that maybe that 40 hours in order for us to be maybe complete a full income calculation based on your new job, because based up just that one pay stub that me you might be bringing me the first week of pay that they pay you, it's not enough for the bank to see that that's going to be your actual pay.
Right. Okay. So
Mhm.
how long do I have to work at a place in order for you to consider it as my, as valid work history?
Valid work history, if it's just changing from one job to the other, there is no gaps, at least 3 weeks of pay stubs we would ask for, at
Okay.
least. If there was a gap, we want to maybe tell the person that just switched the jobs, and there is a certain time that they took because they needed to look elsewhere. It happens. If they let you go from your job, you took your time to actually find something, you finally found your job. It might be that you have to wait 3 months, or it might be that you have to wait 6 months. It just depends on how you're getting paid in that new job.
And what do banks typically like to see for a time frame with someone in a work history, just right off the bat?
If it's in the same work field, same history, I want to say that with that month, if there's no gaps, it should be enough. But if, let's just say they switch jobs, totally different, most likely 6 months.
Okay.
And if there's
I
If
guess
everything,
I guess what I'm trying to figure out here is when I sign an application, what if I just started working 3 months ago? Are you still, do you think that I still have the possibility? Like maybe I wasn't working for like 2 years or 3 years, and then I just started a job, and 5 months from the day that I start my job, I want to see if I can get pre-approved to buy a house because now I have some money saved up, and I have this awesome job that's paying me very well, and I want to see if I can get pre-approved to buy a house. How long do I have to have the job for?
now you definitely want to have a 2 year history. So if you have gaps, like I said, and it's been a while since you've not worked, we still gonna have you show 2 years of history. So if you
Yeah.
don't, if you've not been working for the last 2 years, you really, even though you have 3 months working, it's not enough. You would need the 2 year history
Perfect.
of
So
work.
just being mindful of how long I've been working at a place.
So I feel like just kind of pivoting here, I feel like one of the biggest kind of pitfalls buyers often take is unfortunately like not having a cohesive team, a group of people who like work with each other a lot and understand, that work at a high level and they all understand each other's roles and all that. Would you guys agree that that kind of that happens often sometimes with new buyers who are not guided the right way?
Absolutely. It definitely
Absolutely.
happens. I see it happen all the time. I think that when you have a good team to back you up, first of all, you have people that are educating you, like on, the difference between being pre-qualified and pre-approved. Knowing that with your pre-approval, you shouldn't be taking any time off and you shouldn't be switching jobs. Without that education, you're going to make these mistakes. And when you submit that offer, if you don't have someone behind you that's telling you, hey, we're here now. So make sure that you're not doing X, Y, and Z before we get to the closing table because it could really hurt your process. And then you're in breach of contract and you might lose your first deposit, you might lose your second deposit. So there's a lot of things that you want to be mindful of. And having people that communicate well with each other and work well with each other and know that their response time whenever you have a question is going to be like right away, that's really important. For sure. What do you think, Jenny?
I definitely agree. When you are working with a cohesive team, you are getting all your answers, I'm sorry, your questions answered. There's nothing maybe lingering or not or stopping you from sleeping well because a lot of these buyers maybe keep their concerns to themselves and working with a team that they feel comfortable with. It's definitely one of the most important things, especially for those that have questions. It's their first time. Of course, it's kind of scary when you're a first time buyer,
Mhm.
and you should be able to work with someone that you trust, you know?
Yeah. And it's always
Yeah,
interesting.
it's a big investment.
It is. And
Correct.
it's
Yeah.
always interesting because I feel like sometimes, I see it a lot with attorneys too. Like if you're not taking your realtor or loan officer's advice on who to use as your attorney, and you're just bringing in maybe like that family attorney that your uncle knows from back in the day, that's could sometimes be a little risky because they may be a generalist. They may not be just real estate focused.
Right.
So I know a lot of people want to go with kind of the family's referrals. I know all of us are all referral based people. Like that's how we get our business. But you have
Hmm.
to really kind of also do your due diligence in researching who those people that you're being referred to in are. Like, it just makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. It definitely does because, again, you want to have people that are going to be educating you, but also if you're working with, members on a team that you've already established that relationship with. I already know how you work, Liz. I already know how Jenny works. I know that, she's going to stay on top of the clients that need to submit the documents. I know that she's not going to withhold information from me that might, hinder the process or delay the process or not share critical information that is going to help the buyer themselves be successful. At the end of the day, we all share the same goal. We want to get to the closing table, because we want you to become a homeowner. That's why we signed up for this. That's why we are in this line of business. So, working with people that are specifically focused on real estate, like a real estate attorney, like a mortgage lender, as opposed to, working with someone from the bank. That might be a big difference between working with a mortgage lender because bank officers might not have the same programs or they might not be able to offer those down payment assistant programs that a mortgage lender can offer a buyer because of the fact that they are strictly focused on real estate loans
And
as
their
opposed to banks that
attention
also focus on other stuff.
and their attention may be divided. There's some banks that have like strict, like, okay, this is the loan lender team, but many banks are not that way. So you're a loan officer one day, you're opening a savings account the next day, like you're not in it mortgages 100%. And that is what you really need to have like the highest level of service and knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
Going back to that pre-qualification pre-approval, when you're submitting an application online, let's just say, you're not really talking to someone.
Right.
You go to Google, you say, "Oh, we can apply online." Okay, great. Who's following up with you?
Right.
You just got an email saying you're pre-approved or oh, your pre-qualification, you're qualified for this much. Now you go because that's what the system told you. You're not really getting that follow-up from an actual person. It could be automated.
Right.
So that's very important to actually have somebody that's going to walk you through the steps and tell you what's the next steps. So I agree with you guys with that.
Yeah. And that's why we network, right? To get to know one another better and to just kind of build that circle of trust.
Right.
Because there's a lot of moving pieces when you're buying a home and it's a big investment. You want to make sure that your investment is being protected. And part of having that protection is working with the right team and having a good realtor, a good lender, a good attorney, and people that have the experience and people that again work well with one another, because you can meet a lender and then have your realtor and they don't know each other, they've never met before, and so now you don't know how they're going to work, how they're going to respond to one another. Maybe you're bringing in that family attorney like you said, and you don't know how that's going to work cohesively.
Right.
Or maybe it won't be. So yeah, having the right team to back you up and protect you and your investment and give you that knowledge, that education, so that you can successfully get to the closing table without any hindrance is definitely super important. So common pitfalls.
Yeah.
Let's steer clear of them. All right, guys, now you know what to do to get to the closing table. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. I'm Ashley Flores with the Cornerstone Group, and we have Jenny Guillermo with Annie Mac Mortgage and Liz Barletta with the Barletta team at Ligris. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.